Now, in this story, Francis Joseph must demand that a grand jury sitting in South Florida had been investigating reports of alleged fraud and money laundering. And during the investigation, a link was made to the Piarco Airport Development Project. The investigations were being done by the Immigration and Customs Office of Homeland Security in the United States. The investigators were looking into the Vargas drug cartel in Colombia. Listen to what I'm saying. A grand jury in Florida is looking at a situation where investigators from Immigration and Customs in the United States are looking into the Vargas drug cartel in Colombia and possible links to the United States. During the investigations, the Americans discovered the name COLM and a connection to the Piarco Airport project. As a result, they executed a search warrant on COLM's offices in Florida and seized documents. The Americans are investigating reports that some 30 US million was allegedly laundered out of the Piarco Airport project through the US and international bank accounts of COLM. And of course, I don't have to read and spell for you, because the money ended up in the bank account of a drug lord in Colombia. So this is why the United States was seeking to extradite these two men, because there was a potential link between money that was allegedly stolen at the Piarco project and found its way through various accounts out of COLM and possibly into the account of a drug cartel in Colombia. Quite different to what is taking place here in Trinidad and Tobago. So you need to understand there's much more to this story than meets the eye. So you have a potential connection with a drug lord identified by a fellow called Francis Joseph, who is currently the advisor to the Minister of National Security, Jack Warner. So he and the advisor don't talk. So Francis Joseph tell him that when he wrote this article, he discovered that a grand jury in Florida was investigating a possible link between a drug cartel in Colombia, a company called COLM in Florida, and Ish and Steve in Trinidad and Tobago. He didn't tell him that. They don't talk. I just raising issues because they think we are all dotish. Now, let's go to what the Attorney General had to tell us yesterday. He tells us the early proclamation of the controversial Section 34 was aimed at clearing the backlog of cases in local courts. He didn't say that in Parliament. When we came to repeal Section 34 on the 12th of September, he didn't say that. He didn't say the reason why they proclaim it is to clear the backlog. He rejected suggestions it was designed to create a loophole for businessmen Ish Galbaransing and Steve Ferguson. He went on to say that he attended a cabinet meeting when Section 34 was being discussed. Now, you all remember Kamala came and addressed the nation. The Prime Minister addressed the nation and told the nation that the Attorney General was on vacation. And now you have the Attorney General saying, no, I was there when the Cabinet took the decision to proclaim Section 34 on the 31st of August. So what's going on? Why did the Prime Minister tell us that the Attorney General was on vacation when he was not? What is all of that about? Some kind of diversionary tactic? And the fact of the matter is, the Cabinet meeting was on the 9th of August. The Cabinet note was prepared on the 6th of August. Now I can tell you, I've been a Cabinet Minister for more than 12 years, and I know the drill. The deadline for the preparation of Cabinet notes is Monday, and the Cabinet meeting is on Thursday. And on Monday night and on Tuesday, you get your Cabinet notes. So you have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday to read them, and then on Thursday you sit down and you consider the notes. You have a meeting, and the Minister who brings a note has to defend it and justify it and submit himself or herself to interrogation from the whole Cabinet. The cabinet meeting is not a post office box, you know, as these fellows would want you to believe. Once a note arrives in a cabinet meeting, does not matter who it comes from. We have had situations where the Prime Minister bring a note and every member of cabinet question him about the note. That's how a cabinet meeting is run. A note is before you, you have 20 people or 25 people, they have a big cabinet. Every minister is entitled to interject, to ask questions, to probe, to ask that it be sent to one of the subcommittees of cabinet for further examination. There's no rubber stamping going on inside of there. So the fact of the matter is that the note was dated the 6th of August, a Monday. That note would have been circulated that same night, Monday, or the next day, Tuesday. That means that the Attorney General and everybody else, all those lawyers, Prakash Ramadar, and everybody else, all those senior counsels and so on, would have had Anne Jack Warner, the Minister of National Security, who has a battery of lawyers to assist him, would have had 2 days at least to read the note, to look at it, to understand what it was. And it's a 2-page note, you know, or 3 pages. It's not a big long thing. 1.5, I hear. So it's no big deal. It's 1.5 pages. There's no rocket science in that. So they all would have come to the meeting that Thursday morning on the 9th, fully briefed, read the thing, look at it, understand it, and sit down there and now trying to tell us they didn't know what was going on. They lied. Every one of them lied. Now, let's go on. The Attorney General told us yesterday that he has no experience in criminal law. Well, all right. So what? Jeremy had no experience in criminal law, and he is the one who was piloting the whole series of legal matters with respect to the extradition of these 2 men. Glenna Moraine didn't have any experience in criminal law. So, I don't remember Keith Sobian when I was there in 1991 have any big experience in criminal law. Kamla Prasad had no experience in criminal law. Bridget Anizette George had no experience. It doesn't matter. Russell Martino, one of the most distinguished attorneys general, had no experience as far as I know in criminal law. It doesn't matter. In order to be the Attorney General, you just need to be called to the bar. You just need to be a qualified attorney. That's all. Full stop. Anthony Smart didn't have any experience in criminal law. In fact, he hardly ever went to court. He was a solicitor. So all of this is just smoke and dust. Because when it comes to criminal matters, the Attorney General has a budget of over $100 million that he can use to pay lawyers, local lawyers, senior counsel, and there's a lot of that. There's a lot of money in terms of hiring lawyers to advise him on the law. He does not have to be an expert, so it's irrelevant that he has no experience. Nonsense. But let's move on to another thing that he said. He said that when they all got their portfolios after the general election in 2010, Volney was given responsibility for criminal legislation, not him. So don't ask him, because this bill was criminal, so ask him nothing. Senator Al-Rawi has already pointed out that the anti-gang legislation was criminal. The bail amendment was criminal. The interception of communication was criminal, and the Attorney General took the lead on all of those. So all the time he was there parading in the Parliament in 2010 and 2011 and gallerying with respect to criminal matters. Criminal law. But I was interested when I heard this point that the responsibility for criminal legislation was given to Volney. So I went and I found the Gazette. You know, I like to do my research. So I went and I found the copy of the Gazette that was published in 2010. It is the volume number 49, number 74A, published on Wednesday, the 16th of June, 2010. And it gives the following responsibilities to the Minister of Justice, Mr. Herbert Volney. Criminal legislation. It's a fact. So I took a good look and say, it's true. They really gave Volney responsibility for criminal legislation in June of 2010. But you see, that is not the end of the matter. These people, they don't like to give you all the information. It's like Kamala told you that RAMLOGAN was out of the country. Yes, he was. But he came back 5 days before the cabinet meeting. She didn't tell you that part. What Mr. RAMLOGAN declined to tell us is that in 2011, you remember all this confusion when they changed up Jack Warner portfolio? You know, Jack Warner wanted to cry when they take away transport and they put Devon Maraj in charge of transport and they cut him down to nothing and he running all about the country crying, oh, you know, they could do what they want. Remember that? Well, there was an issue of the Gazette dated the 13th of July 2011 where the Prime Minister reassigned portfolios to her cabinet. So I said, let me look at that. Let me see what happened with Volney. Would you believe, when you go to the responsibilities of the Minister of Justice, as of the 13th of July 2011, Kamala took away criminal legislation from him? Only believe that? So from July 2011, Volney had no responsibility for criminal legislation. She take it out. She take it away. It's not easy at all. I can only speculate on what was the reason. But the fact of the matter is, when the Attorney General told us that Volney had been given responsibility in the Gazette for criminal legislation, he didn't tell us that came to an end in July 2011. Now, there's a lot of talk about what the Attorney General is responsible for and what he's not responsible for. That needs to be explained. The Constitution says that the Attorney General is responsible for the administration of legal affairs in Trinidad and Tobago. It's a wide, broad definition. It means he's responsible for everything that has to do with law and legal matters in Trinidad and Tobago. But there's a little piece in that section of the Constitution that says, subject to another section in the Constitution. So when you go and look at the other section, which is section 79, it says the Prime Minister may assign responsibility for any department or business of government to any minister. But what this means is that if no legal matters were assigned to anybody else, the Attorney General is responsible for all. So in 2010, when the Prime Minister gave the responsibility for criminal legislation to Volney, it meant the AG was not responsible for that. But when she take it away from Volney, it come back to the AG. You think it's easy with these people? They could run, but they can't hide. So we are being expected to believe that the Prime Minister took away criminal legislation from Volney, but Volney didn't know. Because in November, Volney in the Parliament piloting the Indictable Offences Act. But he no longer responsible for it, so what are you doing that for? And up to the time that she fired Volney, she didn't tell us that she took away that responsibility from him since July 2011, more than a year ago. So what is really going on in this cabinet? So you have a man who not responsible for the legislation, bring a note to cabinet, a set of lies in the note. The Attorney General in the meeting, he said, not me, I don't deal with criminal matters. That is his business. But that gone from him long time. So the Attorney General said, don't ask me nothing. I dealing only with civil matters, contracts and breach of contract and things like that. Don't ask me anything about criminal matters, because that's Volney business. This time, the thing take away from Volney over a year before. Kamala sitting down there, she know she take away criminal legislation from Volney, she ain't saying nothing. They're letting Volney talk. And here Volney, I went to a meeting with the Chief Justice and the Director of Public Prosecutions, and they agreed that I could proclaim Section 34 ahead of schedule. Warner sitting down right there. And you have to understand Warner's role. In the meeting on July the 24th, there were 3 other ministers of government present. You had Volney, the Chief Justice, the Director of Public Prosecutions, some other officers and staff, and you had Carolyn Sipasat Bechan, Public Administration, Ganga Singh, Acting Attorney General, and Jack Warner, Minister of National Security. So 3 members of the cabinet are present when this alleged agreement is reached with the CJ and the DPP. I read today that Sipasat Bechan left the country before the cabinet meeting, so she could say I wasn't there. They say Ganga Singh leave on the same day, so I wasn't there. So the only man who was present in the 2 meetings was Jack Warner. So Jack Warner sit down in a cabinet meeting and hear Volney lie. And Volney say the Chief Justice and the DPP agree that we could proclaim this section. Now this is the same Jack Warner who stand bail for Omar Pandey, you know. And Omar Pandey is a beneficiary along with Carlos John and Galbaran Singh of the early proclamation of Section 34. But something wrong. He can't remember that he was in a meeting with the CJ or he just keep quiet for whatever reason. And he can't remember that he stand bail in the case involving Carlos John and Galbaran Singh and the Pandians. Can't remember none of that. He don't remember that if they proclaim this thing, them fellas go walk free. He ain't read the bill, he don't understand, he's not a lawyer. Look at what we are being asked to believe, ladies and gentlemen. All you believe that? Well, I am not accepting that. And let me go give you some more history. When the legislation came to the House of Representatives, we had a discussion about this clause, and we agreed that the time limit will run for 10 years from the date the charges were laid. And the date the charges were laid is when you stand up in court and you answer the charge. The airport charges were laid in March 2005. So the 10 years would have run out in March 2015. So when we sit down there in the House of Representatives discussing this thing, we in the PNM know we have 4 years before, or 2.5 years before the time limit run out. And the PREMATURE matter was coming to an end. The trial should have started in either 2012 or at the very latest 2013. Because one of the things the same Attorney General said when he decided not to appeal the extradition decision was that all the pre-trial appeals have been finished and the way is now clear for expeditious and early trial. So all of us in Trinidad and Tobago were expecting a trial in 2012 or 2013. So we had endless time for the trial to begin. These people would not benefit from the legislation. And a lot of things would have been cleared up and we could all go about our business. So the clause was agreed to in the Senate in this form. Mr. Volney comes in the Senate, and I've looked at his Hansard. From the beginning, he mislead the Senate. As he's laying the bill which says the time limit runs for 10 years from the date the men are charged, he changed up the language and he said the time limit run from the date that the offenses are committed. But that is not what is before the Senate. What the senators have is a different bill. They have a bill which says the charges must run from the date, the time must run from the date the charges are laid, not from the time the offenses are committed. And let me explain the difference. In all these matters, in the Carlos John matter, the offense was allegedly committed in 1998. So 10 years will run out in 2008. That's gone already. In the Piaco matter, the offences were allegedly committed in the year 2000. So the time limit ran out in 2010. That gone already. Understand? But if you do it from the date they were charged, Carlos John and them were charged in 2005, Ishwa, Galbaranting and them charged in 2005, it runs until 2015. But Volney is telling the Senate that we in the House agree that the charges will run from the date that the offences were committed. And it just carries on, you know. The bill before the Senate completely different. And then he waits until the senators are tired at midnight and he slip in a new clause. He take out the old one, he slip in a new one that says the time limit will run from the date the offences are committed. It now comes back to the House of Representatives, because when you amend a bill in the Senate, it is not law until the amendment is approved in the House of Representatives. So a week later, the amendment come back. I make a set of noise. I say, you sure you know what you're doing? This thing is different. When we last discussed this thing, the charges, the time limit run from the date of charges, not from the date of offences. What are you all doing? It means if somebody committed an offence 11 years ago, he will walk free. You sure you know what you're doing? Hold your hand, is what I say. You know what the other side tell me? Don't worry, we go fix it. Don't worry with that. We wouldn't proclaim this law for 3 years. We coming back. We go revisit that clause. Don't fuss, don't fret, don't worry. Think it easy with them. So we pass. We agree. Because from everything that has been said and from what they put on the record, it's 3 years. We have 3 years to fix the clause. We have 3 years to change the schedule and put financial crimes into the schedule. We have 3 years to build the courts, to hire the new masters of the Supreme Court, to make the criminal proceeding rules. So it's 3 years we have to be looking again at this clause before it takes effect. And therefore we say, well, we have plenty of time, because the government, the Prime Minister has told us, don't worry, this thing will not be proclaimed in any rush, in any hurry. That was in December 2011. 8 months later, they sit down in a cabinet, make a decision to proclaim the thing. No rules, no courthouse, no masters, no amendment to the law that allows you to hire additional masters of the High Court, no infrastructure, nothing. They sit down there and they say, go ahead, Volney. You're right, boy, go ahead. Proclaim the act, proclaim the act. And when they get catch, what they say? One say, I didn't know. The next one say, I'm not a criminal lawyer. The next one say, the minister lied. The next one ain't saying nothing. Well, this is not going to stay there. I am calling again on the police to interview Minister Volney, because I don't believe he acted alone. One man can't do all of that wickedness. He changed a law without the cabinet knowing. He proclaimed a law without the cabinet knowing. He do all kind of simmy-dimmy to allow criminals or alleged criminals to walk free, and nobody knows. No, I ain't buying that. Because if I have to accept that, they should resign immediately. They're not fit to govern this country. I don't believe they're so stupid. All of them have degree, MSc, PhD, BSc, senior counsel, all of them. I'm not buying that. I'm not buying that. I am calling on the police to interview Volney and let Volney tell them, who tell him to amend clause 34? Who tell him to proclaim section 34? He must talk. And the only way is that he is subjected to some kind of investigation. This must be the only country in the world where the Prime Minister has dismissed a cabinet minister for lying to the cabinet, and the effect of the lie is to allow accused persons to go free without the matter being tried in the court. This must be the only country in the world. Maybe it happens in other countries where they don't have democracy and they don't have parliament, and maybe that's going there. But the only country that has a democratic form of government, this is the only country I've ever seen anything so incredible happen. So we have to keep the pressure on. We must get to the bottom of this. Don't let them bramble you. Don't let them confuse you. They must answer. I'm not getting into who say what, you know. I deal with facts. Answer. Deal with the facts. The Attorney General must explain. If criminal legislation was taken away from Volney in July 2011, how come in 2012 he's saying that Volney have responsibility for criminal legislation? Explain that. What Volney didn't tell you? Kamala didn't tell you? You didn't know? Come better than that. And Kamala come better than that too. And Jack Warner, the man in the middle, who knows everything, his advisor is familiar with the case. He stand bail for them. He sit down in the meeting with the Chief Justice. He sit down in the cabinet. He quiet now. You ever see Jack Warner quiet? That is a man that like to make papers 9 and 10 times a day. You know? All of a sudden he gone quiet. So I will tell you, as I said, I'm not in the bacchanal. I just deal with facts. Other people will deal with bacchanal. But you PNM people, don't let this rest. Don't ease upon them. They have questions to answer, and you'll make them answer those questions one way or another. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.